still more and more curious about life and everything surrounding me. When you have intentionally, you have put your heart on a photography. I chose living in exile.
Time we realized that the solutions are more rooted in hope and positivism, and I think in beauty, actually.
I'm very confident about humanity, about the future of humanity. Look to the whole globe as a one entity, and to the whole humanity as a one entity, then you're not in exile. You are living every day where you are in your home.
Reza Deghati is a legendary photojournalist whose images have told the stories of people in war zones, refugee camps, and resistance movements across the world. Born in Iran, Reza began using his camera as a tool for change in his early 20s and paid the price with arrest and exile. But exile didn't silence him. Reza has spent decades capturing both the pain and resilience of humanity, believing deeply that photography can open hearts and ignite action. In this episode, we explore what we can learn from Reza's path, how to bear witness with compassion, how to turn art into activism, and how to keep believing in humanity even in the darkest times. Get ready to meet not just a photographer, but a visionary who reminds us that every image carries the power to change the world.
The past few days, I've actually been listening to podcasts of you, looking at your pictures, and honestly, I have so many questions. But before we go into the details, I thought what could be really interesting for me is I really wondered when you were a child, what type of child you were.
Well, one word is curious, as always. This is one thing which I have always been, and I'm still more and more curious about life and everything surrounding me. I think that that's it. To be curious is one of the best things that could bring a human to understand everything around him.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And you discover like photography for the first time at the age of 14, if I'm not mistaken, right? Could you tell us a bit about that and that experience?
I think that's probably from the age of the 8 or 9 years. I started really as a curious person to look around me and try to understand everything surrounding me. And then I find that there was two major subjects that were putting my heartbeat much more higher than usual. And these two events, one was the beauty. As a child, everything that I was looking around me that was beautiful, it was really giving me a heartbeat. Then I realized that I'm getting the same heartbeat when I see what call later the social injustice. It's meaning that the poverty. It's meaning that the beggars on the street. It's meaning that people that sleeping on the street, the children that they didn't have shoes or very bad dress. So as a child, for me, this was also a lot of questioning and giving me the same heartbeat. So these two matters, the beauty and the social injustice, somehow, it's became my main thought as a kid, and I wanted to share with people around me. So I started telling them, calling them, saying that, hey, look here, look what I see, so beautiful is it? Look this cloud, how fantastic is it? Or look this flower, or look to this kid that doesn't have shoes. But I realized that my word doesn't really um, somehow affect people. That's how I thought maybe I'm not able to use the words and I should use images. But the images at the time, photography was not something was very common. It was not known. We had a old box camera that my father was using only to take pictures of the picnics, we and the picnics. And one day when I was looking through this camera inside, and I saw that everything's in the front of the camera could be recorded in the camera. This was the eureka moment for me, that saying that, oh, if the camera, it is not only for the picnic use, but also you can use it in taking any pictures of the anything in front of you or whatever. That's how I started learning photography. I had a 13, I was 13 years old at the time. Now I'm 73. It means that over 60 years now, I had the camera in my hands on and off almost, and photographing. Even if at those years it was almost very, very difficult to learn photography. In my city in Iran, Tabriz, there were only few photo studios that were picturing of the passport, portrait, headshots, or wedding, this kind of. But finally, it takes me like 2 years going around and asking anybody that had a clue about the camera to find out how it works and how you can develop pictures and the way you can bind the chemicals. So all my childhood from this moment really went to photography and the curiosity around the world. But those years, this was not a profession that I never taught as a profession. So I study university first physics and then architectures. I moved to architecture, always photographing, keeping my cameras and taking pictures, but studying architecture, traveling as an student architect student. Finally, it was in 1979 that I was already started working as an architect. That when the Iran Revolution started, and I saw that there's a lot of things happening on the streets. I said, well, let's go and out and take pictures of everything's happening, all the change that is going on. And I take out 3 days from an office as an architecture office, and the 3 days now it has been 45 years. I went back every day, running of taking pictures, and finally here I am.
Some of the pictures that you took during the Iranian Revolution have become really iconic. We'll share actually some of them. How come you already? I mean, what do you think that gave you already that eye? Because I mean, it's quite impressive to think that you go from not necessarily, thinking it as a profession to actually capturing such strong images that convey such a message, right, around the world. How come do you think that you already had that gaze on the revolution and on the people, and knowing even, what are the right pictures to take? How do you convey that emotion without having necessarily had the training? What do you think gave you that capacity?
Well, the photography, there are different way of looking to the photography. One way that some people or some photographer prefer, saying that I just take pictures, I just put on a frame what is looks like for me is good as a form. So these are the people that use photography just working on the forms. Um, while for me, as a photographer, I should also know the form, the composition, the color, and everything that is related to the art of the creating, framing the reality in front of you. But there was one thing more important that I was looking for on it, which later on Uh, I find a French writer explain it fantastically. So this is Antoine Saint-Exupéry, the writer who wrote Le Petit Prince, The Little Prince. He has a phrase that is perfectly explain what is my feeling was and is still on photography. It says that the essential is invisible to eyes. You have to see with your heart. And there's a lot of philosophical saying on this one word. Essential is invisible to the eye. That's the exactly, maybe as a photographer or as a visual artist, in the beginning, it will be very something disturbing, saying that, well, if, what essentially is invisible to eye, so what you do, why you do photography? That's when the second came, that you have to look with the hearts, you have to look with your heart eyes. That's how, that's what you see. So making the form, making a good composition, it is the first things of a photography. But the second is depend on what is the message. When I say the message, it's what exactly what I am bringing to my photographs, like making people look to the form, attracted by the form of the composition, but then taking more deeper inside the pictures of every different element that is in the pictures. And then the whole story became different. They get to understand and look to the story and absorbed by the story. And people start discovering the things which it's almost, I will say that it is for each individual is different than the other individual. When you have intentionally, you have put your heart on a photography.
And so you look with the heart, but isn't your head in a state of fear because you're still photographing, right? A revolution. I know that when you were 16, also, right, you already had experienced a form of repression for having done a journal, if I'm not mistaken. So, how do you handle the fear also of being in such a intense environment?
Um, well, it may sounds strange for someone. It may sounds even unreal for some people, but I believe that the fear is 50% of the death in those situations. So when you are in a dangerous situation, the last things that you need is the fear. The last thing that you need is the panicking. So more you stay calm in front of those danger and the risks, more you have the capacity of better understanding what's going around you. More you stay calm and you don't let the fear uh, coming to your mind and your body and paralyzing you. You have more capacity of analyzing the situation and finding the best angle to take pictures, because that is the real things that happening in those moments. Um, well, there's explosions, there are shootings. You have to be careful. You have to look around. But if you are on fear, then you will not be able. You're paralyzed. You're not able to look around. You're not be able to go to the place that you could get the right pictures. That's why the word fear it has gone from my personal dictionary, out of my personal dictionary. That's why a lot of the colleagues they have seen me in the middle of the battlefield, walking like I was walking in the Fifth Avenue in New York and looking around when everything is battling and the shooting and it. But it is not meaning that I'm blindly going out. I'm very aware of what I'm doing and where am I going with no fear.
Mhm. I actually love that because here often in our work, we realize there's a lot of fear surrounding climate change and sustainability and social upheavals. But at the same time, we realize that the solutions are more rooted in hope and positivism. And I think in beauty, actually, as you say, that there's also maybe a form of beauty or humanity or opportunity in very bleak times. So this really speaks to me. I'm thinking actually because just to go back to the time, so you start photographing the revolution in Iran, and for how long do you do that? What happens? Yeah.
Well, when I left my architecture office asking for 3 days leave, I had no clue what I'm going to do. I just wanted to go out on the streets and take photographs. And the event start moving up. Every day demonstration, every day some other places, every day. Then the police start coming, beating, and then army comes and start shooting the demonstrator. So it goes on and on for me. Uh, why my office was keep calling me, when are you going back to office? And it has been like 3 weeks that you were out. You got 2 days only uh, leave, and I was keeping saying that one more day, one more day. Uh, so keep busy, running everywhere. That event happening, photographing. Then I met a lot of other foreign correspondents that they were coming from all around the world, from different magazines, different photo agencies, TVs, everywhere they're covering it. And I start looking around. Who are these people? How they work? Why they have all these cameras? Why they're running in this way? And then eventually we start talking to each other. Eventually we find a way that meeting and seeing them. And once they saw my photographs, that's how suddenly the word went out that there is a young photographer in Iran with one camera that he's getting incredible pictures. This is what the word went out. I had no idea that this is how the rumor of all this foreign correspondent bringing back to Paris or New York. So that's how a few weeks later I was asked by CIPA Press, which was one of the third biggest photo agency in the world at those years in the 80s, in the beginning of 80s, to work for them. Working for them, it was meaning that when I give the pictures to them, they distributed to more than 20,000 magazine, newspaper, pictures all around the world, worldwide. So suddenly, being just a young student taking pictures on the street, for me, I became someone who had access to more than 20,000 newspapers, magazine in all languages all around the world. And the Newsweek, the magazine in New York, they call and they saw my works, and immediately they contact me saying that, hey, if you want to work for us, we would like to, give you an assignment to start working for us on a daily basis, which I started working for Newsweek too. So that's how, beside those 20,000, Newsweek also, which is a very important, especially in the 80s, there was two major magazines in the world, Time magazine and Newsweek. And so my photograph started going through all those newspapers and magazine. And as I had my own vision of the story, which was always going for the truth, which was always trying to show the thing which usually other people they don't see it or they don't go for it. Um, while there was a lot of other professional photographer coming from all around the world, but the Newsweek and also the other magazine, they start feeling a different way after looking to the story through my photograph than all the professional, always all running together in one place from the other places. That's how my pictures start publishing more and more and more all around the world. And eventually, when the Islamic Republic, uh, this was the first months of Islamic Republic, and very soon I realized that they are not the revolutionary that was promising the beauty and the democracy and the freedom of speech and everything to the Iranian people, but they are just a group of the bandit criminal that want to govern and get everything for them. This was the very first pictures of how they were started killing people, attacking people, the Revolutionary Guard, uh, bombing the cities and houses. And these are the first pictures in the history showing the real face of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which now everybody knows about it. So being the first person exposing them to the reality of how criminal they are, obviously brought against me the wrath of the government. And I felt that I'm in danger. So I fled Iran in 1981, in the March 25th of the March 1981. I left Iran with just my camera bag and a little handbag with few personal clothes on it. And I have never been back from 1981. And that was the beginning of my travel all around the world, which has been now uh, 81, 44 years now. Yes, almost 44 years traveling more than 115 countries and being almost 9 months a year in a different countries and different stories covering. This is the whole story why I chose living in exile.
I'm wondering, how does that feel, not ever being able to go back to one's country? And how does it feel, in a way, also, I guess, living in exile? I mean, even if you discover, I can imagine, many beautiful lands, but yeah, I wonder, how does it feel not being able to go back to Iran?
The first months, obviously, it is almost like you were hit by a big punch on you, because suddenly you wake up in a different places. You know that if you were in your country, you will be prison, tortured, killed. So where you are is a safe place. You are looking for the safety in the beginnings, but it's very difficult because you have left your childhood, you have left your friends, you have left everything that make who you are some other places, and now you are in a different places. So in the beginning is quite difficult, but working as a photographer, traveling the world, soon exile became a real force, a power, very powerful mean for me. That the first things that I understand it, that the the whole globe, that we have only one land, one earth, and there's no planet B for us. So we have to understand it that we are one humanity on one earth. This is my understanding. And from the moment that you understand it, you are not on exile anymore. You just cannot go in one part of this globe because you are in danger. It is not only Iran or there's some other countries which I cannot go because I feel that I am in danger. But then when you look to the whole globe as a one entity, and to the whole humanity as a one entity, then you're not in exile. You are living every day where you are in your home. Every people that are around you, they are like they are your people, or you are part of them. So that's why somehow exile make me much more stronger and much more deeper understand the reality that somehow uh, government or administration trying to hide it. You know, in all my travel, I always try to get a window seat, always in airplanes, and looking down. This is my one of my hobby when I'm traveling on airplane, which I do a lot. I should have uh, what you call it, the carbon footprint very high because of my travel. I know about it, but one of major things which always looking down there is that there is no borders. You don't see any borders from up there when you're looking down to the globe. That's how the whole concept of the humanity, I think that should be one day, definitely.
I love that. And I know you like to call yourself a peace reporter and not a war reporter. Why is that?
Um, I am deeply a pacifist person. Um, I hate war and everything related to it. I think that the only war which is accepted is when you defending your homeland. This is the only war which I don't even call a war. It is a resistance against the invaders. This is the only thing that acceptable. It is normal that if someone came and invade your home, you you have to fight back. But invading someone else's land for any reason, which or creating the wars for economical, strategical reason, I hate it. So to show this, to show that I'm pacifist, the only way which I find out that, okay, if I can go to the war zone and being in the front line and through my photography showing the horror of the war in my way, which is a totally different than um, every other photographer, obviously. So uh, little by little, people in the world uh, will start also looking in this way to the war. They will understand uh, that the war is not a human, that the war is still like the animals that we were in the forest, you know. Uh, This is this is how I see our humanity, that we are still not getting out of the caves. We are. It doesn't matter that we have incredible technology or we have created a lot of machinery or intelligence artificial, but the moment that we are still creating the tanks and the jet fighters, jet and the munition and the guns, we are still the cavemen. We have still the mentality of the caveman dressed in a Christian Dior or Chanel, you know. So that's why the reason which I'm going to the war zones, it is not that I'm a war photographer. I'm going this because I'm a peace correspondent. I want to bring the reality and how the war is inhuman to the humanity.
And I thought what would be interesting for me is to hear if you had to pick one of your projects in all of the different ones that you've supported and developed, which one would it be and why?
Well, actually, no need to explain all the different. If I explain the reason which I did it, then all is there. What's happened during the wars and conflict? Very soon, I realized that the war and conflict create two different destruction. The one is physical destruction, which is destroying the houses, buildings, infrastructures, or even human bodies. We see in the pictures every day this now, all these ruined cities and ruined houses and the people that died. This is, for me, is the physical destruction of the war. But very soon I realized that there is a destruction that is much more deeper than this in the humanity, that it has a much more long lasting effect on the humans. This is the invisible wounds of the trauma of being a trauma in a war. So when a whole country is in the war or a whole city is bombed, even if maybe a few percent of the people die, even if maybe a few percent of the buildings are destroyed, but all the remaining people are traumatized by this. So then I realized that if those people they don't get out of this trauma, which will remain to the whole life with them, the cycle of the violence will continue because you want to revenge someone who killed your parents. You want to revenge someone who killed your family. That's this is the trauma. You are alive, but you have lost part of your family. The enemy or whoever invaded your home or your country has killed your family members, your parents, your friends, your children. So you want to revenge and you're looking for a way to revenge on it. So this trauma is the main reason that a lot of the wars continue. Then I realized that almost, and this is like 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I realized that almost all the efforts of the humanitarian organization, the NGOs and the UN and everybody else is merely and only to helping the physical reconstruction. So they make refugee camps, they bring food, they bring doctors, they build schools, they build infrastructures, and when they giving to the people that have lost everything, housings and the shelter and the mean of education, they said, okay, we have done our works that we are going. While for me, the main works will start now, start how we could help those people get out of trauma. That's how I started my NGOs and my way of the organizing, which is probably one of the first that's saying that uh, we have to help and teach those people first to learn how to tell their own stories, bringing the tools, cameras, radio, TV. They became TV producers. They became photographers. They became documentary makers. They became radio anchors. So that was how I started in a different country, like in Afghanistan, or in the refugee camps, or even in the poor suburb of the many countries, with the youth which has lost almost the trust on everything, helping them and teaching them to become their own voices. By one example, if I could say, in Kabul, uh, from 2001 to 2019, the organization, the Aina Award, which we created, they trained more than 1,000 Afghan women to become photographer, videographer, filmmakers, create their own radio station, create the first magazine for the women, create the first magazine for the children. And imagine all those magazines and radio stations and the TV programs, how they were able over 20 years to emancipate women in Afghanistan. That's why we see Afghan women so bravely from the day first that the Taliban 2019 take over, the Afghan women so bravely, they are demonstrating on the street of Kabul. This was unimaginable. It was not possible even to think about it 20 years ago, that Afghan women come on the street and demonstrate. Even the men doesn't do it in Afghanistan. Yeah. You have two kind of the resistance now. A group of the resistance in the mountain with the guns that fighting against the Taliban. These are the National Resistance Front of the Afghanistan, and then you have the women on the streets, which was demonstrating and bravely. They are arrested, they are tortured, they are raped in the prison, but still they are looking for their rights. So these are the way which the organization which I created in different countries, they bring this to the country, to the people that are victims, but then they became their own storytellers. They are not victims anymore. They take their own destinies in their hands by telling their own stories.
I love that because I think, I mean, it's about empowering and gaining a form of agency, as you said, through your own telling of your own story. And yeah, not reproducing the cycle of victim to perpetrator, which is, I guess, common in many conflicts, even today, right? I really like that. And I notice that you focus a lot, actually, often on children, right? In your work and in your empowerment. Why is that?
When you are on the field, on a war zone, usually we look to the war in Europe and America through the TV screens or newspapers, magazine. That's how the people they see the war. While when you are on the field, you see a little different way. What I find out that even if in the war we see the soldiers and the jet fighters and the group of the men fighting each other. This is how usually the war described on the screens. But immediately when you are on the field, you realize that the main victims of all wars are children. The number one victims of all wars today are children, and the second biggest victims are the women. So children and women are the main casualties and victim of all wars. Doesn't matter how is happening and where is happening and what is going on. From this moment, which I realized this, then I focused my cameras more on the life of the children and the fact that the first things that happen in the war to children, they lose their childhood. And you know how cruel is to bring a child to lose his childhood. They are not children anymore. They have gone suddenly from being a 5 years old girl, a 50 years old woman in their mind, in the way that look into the world. So that's why my main focus in the war zones are children, and also even in refugee camps, teaching and training them to become the reporter of the camps, to tell their own stories through the eyes of the children.
I really like that because I find in a lot of your work, um, and even how you talk about things, you almost seem to look at things with the gaze of a child and in a positive way. Because I have to say, I mean, you've experienced and you've seen so much violence, which I think for many of us, it would be, maybe too much to bear, or we have a very dark way of seeing the world. But somehow you always see things in a very positive and poetic light. And I find that that's something that I've always admired in children, right? Like their ability to find play and happiness, even in a lot of darkness. And it's something I really respect in your work and the way your outlook on life. And I was wondering because I mean, I'm mom. I'm now expecting a second child, and that's really changed also my outlook on the world. Or it's even made it, I think, even more radical in a wanting of a form of, a form of peace. And I can remember, in fact, when my son was born, I had a moment where I thought, how am I going to protect him from this world? Because this world is still very, very harsh. And I was wondering, you who's a father, how did fatherhood change your outlook on life?
But the main thought which I have in this, which it's also shown in my work, as you see, I'm very confident about the humanity, about the future of humanity. We have seen through the history the uh, slow but really slowly but surely humanity moving in a better direction. Some people will say, "Oh, what you talking about? Look what's happening now." I said, "Yes, I know, but this is happening now, and like in the whole circle of life, we have up and down, but it is not only up and down in horizontal line; it is up and down and going up also. Humanity. If you look to the history in the past 5,000 years, you will find that humanity has made a lot of progress in a positive direction. So those wars and conflict that happening now, or some fascism idea that is starting coming back again, it is a part of this little cycle. You know, sometimes as you see the uh, we call it the agony of the last moment before dying. A lot of ideologies have this agony that before totally dying, they make the last movement, uh, which everybody thinks, oh, look, they are alive. Say, no, 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 they are dying. This is the last movement. This is the agony of this uh, gone ideology, which has shown to the world his dark faces, and this is the last moment. So that's why I'm very positive about the future of humanity. Uh, the only thing is that we cannot only think in a way saying, okay, the world is going in good direction, bye bye, and I'm going to do my own works. No, we have, if everybody of us, each of us, we have a responsibility about humanity. If we only look to us and our surrounding and our physical comfort, what is the difference between us and an animal? It is not because we are speaking or we are getting Christian Dior or Chanel or Gucci clothing that we are civilized people. The, there's a African saying that the only measure to find how civilized are a community or a country or a nation, you have to find out how much of their budget, it goes for the education of their children. This is so deep understanding of the humanity. The only measure to find out how civilized is a society is to find out how much of the budget is for children's education. Now, look to many of countries, and you will see that the education budget is much more lower than many other budget, like military or other. You know, so that's that. These are the things which I'm. I believe that everybody in the world that has a, this name of the human being on him or pretend that has, the first thing is to see how much he cares about the other people around him, not about himself and his pocket.
If everyone has a responsibility, how do you think that actually everyone can act? How, if you were giving to advice to anyone, how can you act?
I mean, the main measurement of everything is the right and wrong. So the first thing is to find out what is right for me and what is wrong for me and for humanity for around me. Then trying to be in the right side. This is in a different way. Everybody, we have the power. People have the power of acting in a different way. Each one, by doing a little works, that's how the humanity will progress. If everybody start acting by doing what he loves to do, by doing in the best way that he can do a job, even this is creating a more harmonious society by everybody being honest with what he say and what he does. So these are the things which I believe that will help humanity to move forward.
Great. I contacted Kevin Gavami because I wondered if he had a question for you, because I know he knows you. What would he ask? And he sent me so many different topics. But there was one I particularly liked. He said, basically, how, I'm translating from French, but how after all these years that you've been engaged and very close actually to very big change makers of this world, as well as those who are in very, very vulnerable position and maybe have, in a sense, very little, how did you gaze change on the world throughout the years? And what do you think today we need to face the biggest challenges that await us in our world?
One important thing which I learned that if you are who you are, if you show and you act what is inside you in the same way, this is going to help you a lot. Even probably it's the only way which I think that you can achieve what you wanted. Being who you are, what is your thought is, and acting deeply in accordance with your written values. We all have the values. The humanity is made on the values. Each community has its own values. So acting on those values, personalities, that's how will help everybody to move forward.
So authenticity is a form of key to global challenges, if I understand correctly.
Definitely, yes. The word authenticity, transparency also is important, but authenticity, being yourself, and whatever is good for you, try to have the same thing for everybody else. Look in the same way.
Okay, I've got two last questions for you. One is, if you could go back in time, would there be anything that you would do differently or not? And if so, why?
If I go back on the time, I never regret what I have done. What I have done is done. I accept as my personality at the time that I have done, at the moment which I have done. So maybe there are some action that when you look back, you think that okay, well, now I'm 73. At the time I was 20. When you are 20, you look toward it in a different way. You do this, or 40, or 50, or 60, whatever. So you have a different way after acting or doing on it. But regretting, I only regret if I have done something that harms someone. You know, this is, I don't know about it, but if I have done some things, this is the only thing which I really would regret of doing some things, or action by act or words or whatever, that someone feel uncomfortable. Otherwise, all the other action which I have done, the places which I have gone, the picture I've taken, it's just part of me. I have done it.
And so my last question would be, because you've worked right with the UN, you've been to Davos, etc., and you've also worked with those who are far more vulnerable in places that very few people even know about sometimes in the world. What being in which with whom gives you most pleasure and hope? Being with the top of the top in terms of, like, I guess, political power or change, or being with those who are sometimes most vulnerable?
I don't look to the people in this way, saying that he's a president or he's a beggar. I look to everybody as a human being. In the same way which I've been traveling all around the world in the past 45 years, 44, whatever, and every day I'm in different places. Every day I'm in different countries sometimes. In the same way which I'm meeting everyday different people. So over the years, I had my own philosophy after looking to those, to my days and my connection, saying that wherever I am every day, I should feel that this is the best place in the world that I am. So I could give 100% of myself to understanding the places, the same curiosity which I'm talking. For the people is the same. Whoever person I am, doesn't matter if he's a president or the creative or philosopher or a beggar or a man on the street. If I'm with him for any reason I'm talking, he should be all my attention to him, all my attention. Doesn't matter who is it. This is the only way which I'm able to reach the souls, because I also give my souls to those people when I'm talking to them. So it doesn't matter what position they are. Many of the times, I find in a very, as you say, top level people in a way of the top level of the maybe of the wealth or power, how vulnerable they are when you go deep and close to their lives. You understand how vulnerable they are or how petty they are. And sometimes I have met a man on the street or a very poor man that for me has become probably one of the best person I have ever met, one of the best people, what I call it, the maître de pensée, the master of my mind. So that's how I look to the humanity in the same way.
Thank you so much for that answer. And it really resonates with so much that we're trying to do, because I think that, I mean, we evolve in a space where maybe people don't think of themselves as vulnerable, right? And in fact, I think that maybe that is what is a bit sometimes disconnecting them from some form of empathy. And at the same time, we really believe that those who have been the voices that have been a bit marginalized have solutions to bring, and I actually have had sometimes to have a far more resilience, right? So they're probably also the key. So yeah, I very much love that answer, and I really hope we can inspire, or with this podcast and this conversation in general, inspire people to maybe give a bit more of their soul a bit to everyone around them. So thank you so much.
One of the best words which I could say that everybody has in, but you have to find out how to put in action, is being a change maker. This is the one of the important word of all the times of the humanity. When you are a change maker in a good way, in a positive way, then the humanity is continue moving forward and up.